This episode is sponsored by Assault Fitness. Assault has been a part of Power Monkey Camp for a long time. We've incorporated the runners, bikes, and rowers in our endurance sessions, as well as the competitions that we have at camp and our nightly workouts. Check out the full lineup of machines at assaultfitness.com. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world of fitness about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my two co-hosts this week being Mike Service and Jordan Samuel, and we are talking about me today. We're going to be talking about my gymnastics career, starting out as a young gymnast in New Jersey and then going to Stanford University, and then, of course, finishing out my career as part of Team USA, all the trials and tribulations. Many of you who have been at Power Monkey events or at camp have heard some iteration of some of these stories, but we go a little bit more in depth all the way up to starting Power Monkey. We will be doing a part 2 with some of the people who were instrumental into getting Power Monkey going, but this one is all about my gymnastics career and some of the things that I learned. Hopefully there will be some things in here that you guys can take into your own training that will be useful, but I hope you enjoy this story.
Hello, Power Monkey family. Do not be alarmed. This is not a takeover. So this is Mike Service here. I will be leading the podcast today, and we have an incredibly special guest that we're excited to go in depth with, maybe talk to a little bit more in ways that you're not used to hearing him questioned or able to explain himself fully. And without any further ado, our special guest today is the one and only, our fearless leader and team captain, Dave Durante.
Hello. Good to be on the side of the table
Dave,
today.
does it feel strange to have me start us off?
Yeah, really weird. In fact, I don't like it. We probably should start over and I'll just intro myself.
Yeah, I think we're gonna need to rewind, cut the tape, and then get Dave back in there. No, everyone, we, and when I say we, most of the rest of us at Power Monkey, but specifically Jordan and I, we're starting to think that it's about time to talk to Dave a little bit on here and ask him some good questions. You know, some of you have probably been listening for a long time and maybe know a lot about Dave. Some of you maybe are just tuning in and have not really heard much of Dave's origin story or what he's all about. So today is our chance to get into that a little bit. And Dave, I've known you now for quite a while, and I'm actually feeling both excited and a little nervous to ask you some questions today.
All right. Well, I don't know where the nerves are coming from, but hopefully I can quell those a little bit. I will say I met your mom over the weekend, Mike, for the first time.
Oh yeah,
How
that's right.
about
This is good
that?
timing.
I had to go to Ohio. I went to Mike's town. I know he was like so furious that I was in Cortland, Ohio without Mike and got to hang out with his mom, and she made me a cup of tea and we got to chat a little bit about Mike when he was a kid. That might be a separate episode, but
Oh man.
Mike, I got to be in your part of the world a little bit over the weekend, which was quite nice.
Yeah, it's ironic timing, I guess, for this episode. I'm thinking now maybe Jordan, maybe we need to do an episode where we bring on the moms and we let
Oh my God. I
Oh
would
God. Yeah,
absolutely
that
Juliana
would
and
love to have
Patricia
Nona
be
on this
the
podcast.
leaders
yeah,
and
my
ask
God.
some questions.
We'd go
That'd be an
viral.
interesting one.
We'd finally
I,
bust over that 1 million downloads if we had your mom on here, Dave. She's the best.
I think it would. Oh man. Well, yeah, Dave, it is
One
kind of
Durante at a time. Yeah.
it's actually a good lead in because I was thinking about it, and this is like let's say 13 years of an evolution of friendship for me with you, and it just kind of coincides with the duration of what is now Power Monkey Fitness, Power Monkey Camp, all the things that we identify with and probably connect the most of our life with. And it's the first time you ever met my mom, even though you've been around where I live quite a few times, and yeah, it's funny to me that you're just meeting my mom now. So I'm glad that happened.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. And she was great. And obviously I've been to Ohio with you many times, and first time I go without you is the time that I meet her. So in any case, yes, our families are a big part of this story, and we've become quite a close family, but I'm totally open to answering any questions you guys might have about how it all started in the back streets of New Jersey and
That's
ended up here today on the West Coast. But no, for real, I'd love to be able to,
I think that's where we
you guys
start. I
have,
think we start in Jersey.
I
Where
yeah.
that's yeah.
what got you into the gymnastics gymnasium to begin with in good old New Jersey?
Garwood, New Jersey. great town to grow up in. Tiny town. If you don't know or have never listened to one of the podcasts, I normally bring up Jersey at least once a podcast because I love New Jersey. I know it gets an incredibly terrible rap. People shit on it all the time, but Jersey was an incredible place to grow up, and I absolutely love where I started my gymnastics career. I love sports. I loved everything growing up. I played a ton of different sports, baseball, basketball. I wrestled for a really long time. And then I was jumping on furniture in my house, and you'll hear this from a lot of other gymnasts when they talk about their origin stories, but was jumping on furniture and my mom didn't want me breaking her furniture. And so just lucky enough, there was one of the best gymnastics gyms in the country, which is a few blocks away, especially for boys programs, Surgeons Elite School Gymnastics. And my mom brought me in there. I remember the first day I walked into the gym, October 12th, 1986. I was 6 year old holding my mom's hand, walking in the gym. And I still remember very vividly walking in the gym that first time and like the crazy haze of the chalk in the air and the smell of sweat and feet and all the things that come along with gymnastics gym, and just seeing the kids tumbling and swinging and flipping and doing all the things, and me just being a little bit scared, a little bit nervous, but also really wanting to go out there and like see what I could do, and just being welcomed with open arms by the surgeons community. And it started, my first real love of the sport was in that gym. The gym is still there. There are three surgeons in New Jersey, one in Westfield, one in Garwood, and one in Roselle Park, which are all fairly close to each other. But the one in Roselle Park became the main boys gymnastics gym. And that's the one that I spent a majority of my early years at, finding and falling in love with the sport.
So Dave, you were 6 years old when you went in there, October 12th,
I was 6,
1986.
yeah.
You were
Yep.
6. All right. I had just recently turned 2 at that point.
I was 22.
What do you mean 2?
Right?
What do you mean 2, Mike? You were
Oh no, I was just born. I take that back.
Yeah, you were born in 1986.
You know my birthday better than me. Yeah, Dave knows everything about me. Oh man. Okay. So yeah, Dave's starting his gymnastics career. I am probably just coming home from the
You were born 2 weeks before I
2
went
weeks
to
before
the gym
Dave
the first
started
time.
his
Yeah.
his gymnastics. And Jordan, you were what,
I
like
was 20
finishing
at the
grad
time.
school
Yeah, I was
or
20.
yeah.
Jordan's Benjamin Button,
Yeah,
aging
yeah,
backwards.
looks better than all of us, older than all of us. So Dave, I have one question because I definitely have never asked you this one, and I am curious because I was thinking about some of these things for myself. When was your first competition? Like, when was the first time you did a gymnastics competition? So 6 years old, you got to go into the gym and get started, but when did you compete?
All right, the first one that really stands out was state championships in 1990. So
Okay.
I was 10, and it was the first time I really remember being in what we consider to be a major competition, like the whole state of New Jersey. The way that, competitions work at the club level in gymnastics is you have your, recreational competitions, then you go to state, then you go to regionals, then you go to nationals, and then there's an elite level. And when you're that young, states is a big deal, and every state has their state champion, and then those state champions, certain number of them will go on to regionals and beyond. And so my first state championships was a big deal. I remember 1990, I was 10, and I actually won my first state championship. And I think I even remember my all-around total. I think I scored a 50.8 in my all-around. I was a level 4 at the time, which the levels have changed pretty considerably now, but I was a level 4 or class 4. I think it was called class 4 back then, and now it's levels. But yeah, I won my first state championship, and I remember needing to like hit a pommel horse routine, and I did it and won that first state championship, and it was a big deal being in the sport 4 years and doing my first states.
Was there any like thing you learned from that first competition that you carried with you into your later years and that you maybe still reflect on today or you still lean on?
No. I mean, when
just
I'm
like-
10, nothing. When you're 10 years old, it's like, is there a snack? We used to eat like Slim Jims in the middle of the competitions and like just like play cards and just like, not crap in our pants while we're like moving from event to event. Like learning about like life lessons at 10 years old being in this competition, absolutely not.
Well, would
But
you not say that not shitting your pants is a pretty good lesson to learn?
Yeah, those are the kind of things that your coach tells you. Like, don't kick me in the balls when I'm lifting you up to the rings. Very, very important. That happens more often than you would think. And don't crap in your pants because you're wearing white shorts, and we don't want the whole world to see that. So these are very important learning lessons when you're 10 years old, and having a coach that's teaching you how to become a professional gymnast.
I
But
wish I learned
I
how not to shit my pants earlier.
yeah, see, you got to become a gymnast
These
for that.
these these stories are already very very parallel to some weightlifting ones. So one day I'm excited to go. Not necessarily my life, but some of these mishap stories. But Dave, you said you won the first event, and I'm just trying to picture 10-year-old gymnastics Dave, and I hope that Jordan gets a photo or something that he can put up on the screen, maybe an old black and white video that you have. I'm sure your mom was recording it, but did you smile when you won? Or was there like the Dave Durante serious scowl?
No, I think I was happy for sure. Like I was definitely excited to win. I didn't know exactly what that meant, but it was the highest I could go at that level. Like I
Mhm.
wasn't even able to go beyond that. So for me, like I was really excited because the gym that I went to, like I said, Surgeons was like really a powerhouse of men's gymnastics. Turned out other Olympians over the years, Dominic Minicucci, a two-time Olympian, 88 and 92, tons and tons of collegiate gymnasts and other national team members. And to be a part of that team and to be able to be successful just meant that you were like part of a lineage that meant something.
Mm.
So I just wanted to be a part of that, I just wanted to be a part of the team. And, it's one of the things I've always kind of grasped onto, and maybe we'll get into it when I get to like my collegiate years, but the thing that I loved most about competing was, well, one of the things was the team aspect and being able to do it with the other guys and being able to kind of share in the emotion of like, oh my God, like this is challenging. What do you guys do to be able to overcome like the fear of, a high bar routine when everything is on the line? And, it starts at a young age, but the ability to have a team and other guys to kind of lean into that are going through the same thing is incredibly helpful. And there are a lot of boys programs out there that don't have that. It's just I'm the only boy in the program. I go out there and I do my best and hopefully I succeed. And I don't know what that was like. And so I just know that it would have been incredibly more challenging to be able to, achieve things when you don't have, 10 other brothers that you can lean into and be like, okay, we're doing this together. Even though it's just me out there, we're
Hmm.
all doing this together and trying to achieve a collective goal.
How many of
I want
those, sorry, how many of those
to.
boys that you were competing with back then do you stay in touch with, or did you compete with later and have gone to similar heights as you?
I still keep in contact with a lot of them. In fact, my mom's best friends in her life are the parents of those kids.
Hmm.
So my mom just went on a trip to Italy with 10 of them and 10, women in their 70s, and 8 of them were parents of the kids that I grew up doing gymnastics with. They're the ones that my mom hangs out with all the time. And in fact, I just got back late last night from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor for an event, and a lot of my friends from growing up were there, and they were kids that had gone to University of Michigan, and I hadn't seen them in years, and we caught up like it was nothing, and like like we hadn't seen each other in years, but it was like we were back in the gym at Surgeons. And so they're family, man. They're as close to me as my actual blood, and the fact that we went through some really crazy shit together was uh crazy shit is a story in and of itself. Like going to Surgeons is back in the day was a legendary experience. And I will tell you that if you come across anyone in the sport of men's gymnastics that grew up around the same time that I did, they will know of Surgeons, not so much because we were great at gymnastics and we had some good gymnasts because they were of pretty good caliber, but more because of the kind of things that we did in our gym. And we were a mess sometimes, man. We our gym was an old bowling alley, and so it wasn't really meant for high level gymnastics. Like we just made shit work. Like we just made it work. And our coaches were like pushed us to really do things that, the equipment was there were beams, the ceilings were low, so like we had to do things without hitting the ceilings. Like we had to be really careful the way that we kind of approach certain movements and skills. But we became really hard athletes in the sense that like we were prepared for anything. Like if we got to a competition and like, the equipment was a little off, we were like, easy. Like no matter what was thrown at us, we were prepared because day in and day out, we didn't have like, the best equipment in the world. And it just made us much more prepared athletes because we were just ready for anything. And we also did some other things as a group over the years that were not, I don't know how to put this in a way, like it made us stronger, bonded as a team, but would probably get us in some trouble today in terms of like
alternative team building methods.
Team building methods.
Team building
Let's
methods.
say that. Yeah.
Dave,
yeah.
I want to put a pin, like, because I feel like this will be a common thread maybe through the different phases of your life where we get to. But yeah, you said like the team aspect, like you were, I guess, fortunate to go to a club that was very like team focused, had a lot of peers that you could compete with, and that definitely let's say made a foundation for you, I would say, that you probably built off of. Like you weren't the one and only guy there and like all on your own necessarily. Like I'm sure if you weren't the best one, you were one of the best ones throughout all your classes, up until you went to university. But
I was just one of another. One of another. There were a ton of us. Like we had a huge boys team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just another one of the kids. And there were a lot of kids that were much, much better than me. But I always wanted to be good. I always really wanted to be good. And I love the sport and I love the challenge. And yes, I love the team aspect and I want to talk about that more. But I really, really loved the ability to make incremental and be like, okay, that guy is better than me. He's clearly got more talent than I do. But what can I do to beat him? What do I need to do to beat him? And even at a young age, that was something that I pursued. Like, I'll do anything I need to do to be able to beat that guy. And that to me is always something that really stuck.
So would you say that mentality of, wanting to challenge yourself or, I guess not take the easy way, would that be something that would lead you to wear a t-shirt in high school that says if gymnastics was easy, it'd be called football?
Yeah, so I mean that did happen in high school. I think you mentioned this to Sadie, and she claims it didn't happen, but it actually happened. Yeah, when I went to high school, I was, good high school student, had friends, but I was in gymnastics a ton, so I didn't get to do a lot of outside of school activities. But I am still close with a lot of my high school friends, believe it or not. And I was proud of gymnastics, and gymnastics doesn't always get a lot of love, especially men's gymnastics. And when I got to high school, there was no men's gymnastics program at my high school, Johnson in Clark, New Jersey, and I started one. And so I started a high school program, and I was able to compete for my high school my sophomore and junior year, and I won the state championship, the high school state championship, my sophomore and junior year. And then my senior year, they stopped high school gymnastics in New Jersey altogether. And so the record in the state of New Jersey is 3 state championships. And I would have, I like to think that I would have won my senior year after having won. Freshman year, I didn't compete. There was no team. So I won the years that I was able to compete. But I have to give a shout out to former Surgeons gymnast who coached there up. I think he might even still be coaching there. Rich Polsford, the only person to ever win 3 New Jersey State Gymnastics championships, high school championships. He still gives me shit about it. Actually, he just sent me a message the other day. 3-time state champ, still record. he's in his 50s now, and it's his one claim to fame that he's still leaning into. But during those high school years, I got to get a Letterman jacket because I competed for my high school and won a state championship for the school, which they were all proud of. And our school was actually very athletic. We had, especially my sophomore year, we had the football state champions. We had in our division, whatever it might have been, soccer. We were just very good at sports. And a couple guys went on to play collegiate football and in the NFL. And I remember one day, just as a joke, I thought it was a joke, I wore a shirt that said, if gymnastics were easy, they call it football. I thought it was funny. Some of the football players did not think it was so funny. And one of them, I like to think it was jokey, but he did very much, as you might imagine, a little gymnastics kid getting picked up and put up against the locker in front of everybody for disparaging the greatness that is high school football in New Jersey.
So for everybody that knows Dave of being famous for his gymnastics accolades. It's really being put into a locker by a future NFL player.
Yeah, I was put up against the locker. He didn't actually shove me in the locker, even
Okay.
though I was small enough to fit in a locker for sure. I think my senior year, I was still around maybe 5 foot, under 5 foot, and like still right around 100 pounds. So my senior year, I was like a tiny human being, and I grew into this massive 5'5" while I was in college. But yeah, that did happen. I'll give a shout out to the guy who it was. It was Ray Rosiniak, who was a massive human being, amazing football player, and like he got drafted. He played for University of Illinois, and then got drafted by the Giants. And actually, he's a very nice guy, and I think it was more of a joke. But yeah, being a tiny person in high school and making fun of the amazing football team didn't go over so well.
All right. Well, I do request that we have at our next camp, Power Monkey Camp shirts that have that as
What,
the
me put
slogan.
up into a locker?
No,
Uh,
if gymnastics was easy, it'd be called football. I think that would be a pretty
Or maybe
funny.
we can adjust it and say if gymnastics were easy, it would be called weightlifting.
or
Oh,
CrossFit?
we could have a good battle of shirts there. No, I'm giving you some fun questions, I guess, Dave. But I do have, let's say, a little deeper one, because I'm thinking about you as you're finishing up high school. You obviously at this point know that you're good at gymnastics, right?
I mean, I was a pretty good, again, nationally. At this point, it's like nationally.
Hmm.
Like I'm one of maybe 20 kids that's in the pipeline to be, potentially considered for the junior national team, and
Hmm.
one of the top recruits going into that 1998 recruiting season. And so my senior year at our JO national championships, I took ninth in the country. So I was top 10 in the country in the all around, and I was one of the um, you know, highly recruited athletes to the collegiate level, but by no means was I the top guy in the country.
So I mean, we've talked about it in the past, and I mean, I know you went on recruiting trips to Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois.
No, not Ohio
What?
State.
Not Ohio
Illinois,
State,
no, no. I
Minnesota.
was
Oklahoma, right?
Nope. Michigan, Oklahoma, Illinois, Stanford. You're allowed five, but I only took
Okay.
four.
And was Stanford your last one?
So Stanford, I didn't even go on a recruiting trip. Stanford at the time, the head coach at the time, Sid Alamada, didn't give recruiting trips out to prospective athletes. He did not believe it was necessary to recruit to Stanford by giving them recruiting trips. He also was loved by the athletic department because he didn't use any money from their budget to bring athletes out. But I did go to a pro fro weekend, which is like a prospective freshman weekend at Stanford around the same time. And also there was a national championship in Oakland when I was like 12 or 13 that I went to, and I saw Stanford's campus for the first time, and I absolutely fell in love with Stanford. I mean, coming from New Jersey, the weather is what it is, and the community is what it is. You go to Stanford, if you have not been there before, it seems fake. It's like a bubble. The weather is always perfect. The campus is always perfectly manicured. It's a little bit unfair in terms of what the campus looks like. It's the second biggest campus in the world, 8,180 acres. It's massive, has a lot of farmland. Stanford's called the farm, and it's beautiful. And at the time, Stanford was coming off of three national championships in the mid 90s with some of the best gymnasts in the country. They were amazing. My idol at the time, Jair Lynch, 1996 Olympic silver medalist on parallel bars, had just graduated and was where I wanted to go. I fell in love with the school, and it was my end all be all. I said, I'll go on these recruiting trips, but Stanford is my number one choice. And if I get in, I don't know how I'm going to get in because I was a good student, but nowhere near Stanford quality that I would absolutely 100% fly across the country and go to Stanford.
So this is fitting of you and maybe a little bit of your personality. I think uh yeah, you're intrigued by this let's say collective beauty. So it's not just the sport, it's not just the location, it's like kind of everything. So I've never heard you describe the Stanford part like that. Like I know it's a beautiful campus, but you saying like you fell in love with it, like just how beautiful it is to walk on. Um, and I'm curious. So 18-year-old Dave is now saying, I love Stanford. I love this campus. It's beautiful. I visited these other ones. I want to go here. Before you decide to go to Stanford, are you afraid?
No, I wasn't afraid. I was afraid I wasn't going to get in. I really didn't think I was going to get in. In fact, the head coach was like, "You're not going to get in." He told me straight up, like, "You're not going to get in." And I had taken certain number of AP classes, AP Bio, AP Chem, all the things prerequisites that I think you're supposed to take at the time. And, Stanford now has become nearly impossible to get into. They have over 50,000 applicants a year. They have a 4% acceptance rate. It's the most difficult, if not one of the top two most difficult schools to get into. At the time, there were about, I don't know, 19,000 applicants, 20,000 applicants my year. And it was about a 13% acceptance rate. So the class sizes have stayed the same. They let in about 2,000 students, and about 1,600 are the class sizes. So Stanford undergrad is relatively small. It's not a big campus, but student body, especially undergrad, is very small. And I just didn't think I could compete against, the kids that were scoring perfect on their SATs and had perfect GPAs and all those things. And so I leaned really heavily into my gymnastics, but they don't give preferential treatment to athletes at Stanford either. So you just get into the pool with the other students and you just hope for the best. So when I did my application, I just tried to lean really heavily into my desire to be the best at something, and also my background and really who I was. I spent a lot of my childhood growing up going to Italy with my family and trying to be as well versed in terms of what the world had to offer as possible, as opposed to just being like in a classroom and just studying and being good on tests. And I think that weighed heavily into, why I actually did get in. Just like I offered more than just good test scores. And I tried to bring that mentality to Stanford and just be like, hey, I have experienced some things up to 18 that a lot of people haven't. And I've got to do some really amazing travel and experiences outside of this country. And for me, I really think that's one of the things that helped me to get in. It definitely wasn't because I was a better student than the person that I was applying next to.
Who proofread your essay that you had to send?
My 7th, 8th grade English professor, Miss McGovern. She was awesome. She was so nice. She lived close to us, or Miss McCormick, and she lived really close to us. And she was so kind to proofread and make sure that my grammar was up to the standard of, sending into Stanford. And so she was very much on board with getting me to look the part with the application.
I like that. Do you think, Dave, because you said, yeah, you weren't necessarily afraid of going to Stanford, more afraid that you wouldn't get in.
I really wanted to go. I was ready to
Yeah.
go. I was like, I want to go to California. I want to be on this team. I want to show them that I belong here. So I wasn't scared. I was ready to go.
Do you think from, being a kid that got to go, over to Italy with your family and have that experience of, leaving the comforts of home or the familiar surroundings and getting exposed to some different stuff, do you think that opened you up maybe to a bigger willingness to put yourself in potentially awkward or different situations?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's always been kind of like something that I've been traveling my whole life. My first trip to Italy was when I was 1 or 2. I've been on planes every couple of weeks since. Feels like that at least. But I've always loved to experience the way that other people live. And like I said, when I went to California the first time when I was 12 and saw Stanford's campus, I was just like, this is where I need to be. Not where I want to be, but where I need to be. And I still say that, asking Sadie to marry me, best decision of my life, that she said yes. Getting accepted to Stanford and making a decision to move across the country, another one of the great decisions of my life to be able to say yes. But I remember getting the acceptance. I got the call from the head coach, Sadao, who had been there like 30 years, icon in the sport and at Stanford. And I hid myself in the bathroom, and my brother and my mom were outside in the kitchen waiting to hear. And And the coach is like, I can't believe it, but you got in. And he was like as shocked as I was. And then I walked outside and I like tried to play really cool, and I was like, I got in. And like my brother was like, no fucking way, you didn't get into Stanford. And he was like, he couldn't believe it. But yeah, getting that call that day again just etched in my mind forever, and kind of took me on a path that led to here today. But I spent 7 years in California at Stanford and coached there, and it's still a very, very close part of who I am, and I think it'll continue to do so because I still try to stay as close as I can to the university.
So
I
what
wanna-
happened when you got to Stanford?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
hear this.
Yeah, it's a great start to my college career.
You beat me to
So
it, Jordan.
pumped, so pumped. Got on the plane, got out to California. I went into the gym. I met the team, met the assistant coach, Kyle Sano, and met the other guys on the team. And at that time, the team was terrible. It just come off of like a really good run in the mid 90s, and then they lost a lot of their big recruits, and we didn't have very many guys. There were only about 8 guys on the team. Teams today are about 25 guys. So we only had like 8 to 10 guys on the team. So we were a really small team, and the talent level just wasn't where it had been or where it is now. And I got in the gym and I was so excited. I got on, started stretching, and this is before school had started. I flew out there in September. Actually, it was September 11th that I flew out there. And we're on trimesters at Stanford, so classes don't normally start till the end of September. So we were there a couple weeks before classes actually start. And I got on pommel horse, and I took my first turn, and believe it or not, on pommel horse, which normally does not lead to a lot of injuries, low to the ground, I fell and I blew my knee out. My first actual turn, my ACL, MCL, meniscus. I fell and ruined my freshman year of college gymnastics. Now, that was absolutely devastating. Like, it was really, really hard to take that first high of landing and going to the gym and seeing everything and breathing that air, and then knowing that your freshman year was down the drain within the first 5 minutes. It was like Aaron Rodgers this year, tearing his Achilles in 4 plays for the Jets. I'm not comparing myself to.
I was just going to say, I usually think of Aaron Rodgers when I hear Dave's name, so that makes sense.
So many similarities.
It was an extreme high to an extreme low really quickly. That was really, really difficult. There were some positives. I'd say the 18-year-old Dave will tell you that the main positive was that I was given a golf cart for my recovery process for the first couple of months of my freshman year. And so that is how I became friends with everyone, because everyone wanted to ride my golf cart around Stanford's enormous campus. So
was
every
it like
class
the
I
golf
had to
cart
go
that
to.
Rodney Dangerfield drove in Caddyshack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Boombox on it. I had my golf clubs, but I had a golf cart for my first couple of months at Stanford. And so it made me make some friends rather quickly.
That's new for me,
But
Dave.
what did your
know a
coach
golf
say to
cart.
you? Because I love this part. What did your coach
So
say?
my coach was like, okay. He was upset, obviously. Like, I was a good recruit. We had an amazing recruiting class. That was one thing we were really pumped about. We had 6 guys in my recruiting class. They all had like really, really impressive talent. Unfortunately, that recruiting class didn't really turn out to be as spectacular as we had hoped. But my coach was like, okay, he was always very like pragmatic and be like, okay, what can we turn this into? He was always very honest, and I always appreciate people's honesty. And he was one of those guys who was always very honest, even when he didn't want to hear the honesty, he was honest. But he's like, okay, we're going to use this year to fix a couple of things with your gymnastics. So instead of you competing this year, we're going to get you strong. And I was not a very strong athlete. So like rings was not one of my stronger events. But he's like, we're going to get you strong. So we're going to use this year to really build ring strength. And we're going to fix your shitty handstand. And I, at the time, thought my handstand was actually very good. It was like one of the things that I leaned into, like my form. And, I was not a high flying circus type of a gymnast. I was more about precision. I was about trying to make things look beautiful. And he's like, no, your handstand sucks and we have to start over. And I was like devastated. I was like, oh my God, really? But to me, it was such a change in the way that we approach things that having that year to take a foundational step backwards was so important in my later growth that if I didn't have that injury year, I don't think that I would have achieved the same level of later success because the strength became like the strength that I built turned rings into one of my best events. And it turned me into a top 5 guy, top 3 guy in rings in the country. And so it allowed me to turn, an event that was a weakness or like an afterthought into something that actually became a strength. And then my handstand obviously became something I kind of fell in love with and actually became a strength of mine. So that injury, while it was devastating on day one, looking back in retrospect, it was part of the journey that led me to where I am today. And my coach was one of the one that kind of facilitated the direction to allow it to turn it into a positive.
Dave, with your handstand then, what was it that he said needed fixed? Was it like one thing? What was this?
I mean, he was always very particular. I'd say that one thing that Sadao was excellent at was the details of gymnastics. Like he was always focusing on how to make things look a little bit better. He would do some really odd things with us, and he was Japanese. He came from a
You
very
mean like throw a
Japanese.
shoe at you?
He did do that many times. He threw clipboards at us. Actually, my later coach threw shoes at us, but Sadao would throw clipboards at us during the middle, like of routines. So yeah, all things that you can't get away with today. We used to I can't tell all the stories or else what is the book going to be good for? But there are some things that happened during those years that you would just shake your head like I cannot believe that you guys had those things happen during your years at Stanford. It was a spectacular time to be at the university for sure. But he was so detail oriented and really appreciated all the minute changes that allowed a good gymnast to be great. And the main thing that I took away from what my handstand needed was better understanding of what my lower back was doing. What we tell people all the time about like flattening out that hollow position, details about lower part of the spine, how to get that to be corrected appropriately. And there was one gymnast at the time, he was a junior when I was on the team, and he was our best guy. He was incredible. He had one of the most beautiful handstands I had ever seen, Jason Katsampis. He was an amazing, amazing gymnast. And so I leaned into his training as well and being like, what are some of the things that you do? What are some of the training tools that you do to be able to apply it, a good handstand into a good handstand that you use for paddle bar routine or in your giant swings on high bar or to your ring handstand. And so being able to lean in some of the older guys was really helpful as well.
Would you say at that point in your career, so you're 18, you're a freshman at Stanford, was there any thought that maybe I'm going to teach this stuff one day?
No. In fact, no. I mean, you may have heard me say this before, but I hated coaching. I hated coaching. In fact, like I all the way up until I finished my gymnastics career, I wanted to have nothing to do with the coaching side of the sport. And some of it is about just being a selfish athlete. When you're an athlete, you have to be selfish, unfortunately. You have to be about you a lot of times, especially in an individual sport. Like if I'm going to achieve success in this sport, I need to focus on what's best for me, not what's best for the guy next to me. And so I was a selfish athlete, and I focused more on like how to make myself to be the best I possibly could be. And that became a common theme as I moved to the Olympic Training Center and became part of Team USA. And I was just like, and if I'm the best I can be, it means the team is going to be the best it can be because I'm going to be able to contribute at the highest level. So I never was really able to understand what the coach's perspective looked like to be able to help out everyone else. And the other thing was my final coach at the Olympic Training Center. Every coach in my career contributed something really important to my career. And we can kind of, if you have a question around that, I'm happy to go into it. But my final coach, Vitaly Marinich, who was a Soviet world champion, one of the best gymnasts of all time. I think he was the best coach, not just in the US at the time, but in the entire world. I think he was, other people will probably say the same thing in terms of his coaching ability. He had the ability to like read my mind, which I may have mentioned before. He could tell whether or not just me, 12 guys on the team at the Olympic Training Center. Everybody would come in, and he could tell, like, he had a uniform plan where this is what we're doing today, this is what we're doing this week, and he would modify it according to what he saw coming into the gym that day. All right, you're going to do a little bit more because I see you guys, you're spry and you're ready to go. You're going to do a little bit less. And you didn't have to say anything. He just knew. He knew exactly what was going to get the most out of us on that particular day. And I just was always in awe of his ability to do that. And I said, I'm never going to be able to have that in me to be able to notice the nuance that go into individualized coaching. Like, I just don't have that ability. I was always just inspired by the way that he could do that with so many, different personalities and different ways to approach gymnastics. And he was just so good with that. And so I never had an inkling at all that coaching or giving back to the sport in any kind of like coaching type of way was going to be a path of mine. In fact, it wasn't even on my radar at the time. That's for sure.
Well, I hope so.
Sorry, Mike, I just want to follow up with the Vitali thing. Do you think that his ability to do that hinged specifically on the fact that he was such an elite level athlete himself? You think he could have done that and had that intuition had he not competed at that level?
Well, I mean, this has been said endlessly, but just because you're a good athlete doesn't mean you're a good coach. In fact, it's most of the time it's worse.
Agreed.
Because if you're a really good athlete, you have a hard time describing things. You have a hard time verbalizing what makes you have the ability to do something at a high level. If it comes innate, if you have incredible talent, your body just naturally takes over. So to be able to explain it and to like understand the nuance is super challenging sometimes for really high performers. Do I think it was a benefit for Vitali? 100%. Because Vitali had the ability to understand what it meant to compete and perform at a high level, but he was also able to verbalize it. And he was also able to convey it to us in a really simplified way. So do I think it was a strength of his? Yes. And I think when you can combine a very high level performing athlete into someone who can convey those tools and tricks and tips and training methodologies, I think that's when you get some of the best coaches in the world. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's universal, but in my experience, the best coaches have been ones that have also performed at a high level.
Yeah, and so my follow-up to that is knowing that you were a pretty cerebral guy, you're detail-oriented based even up to that point in your life. I mean, I know you said it was a struggle to get into Stanford, but clearly you're an intelligent guy. You got into Stanford. And you didn't want to be a coach at that point because you didn't think that you could do what Vitali was doing. Do you think that once you did get to the highest level of competition, being on the Olympic team and these other sorts of things, do you think those were the experiences that you needed in order to make yourself feel confident enough that you could do that same sort of thing for people at any point?
No, zero. No. Okay. I was still too focused on myself. Like I didn't want to go. Like it wasn't even like, and in fact, there were some other coaches in the coaching world during like my final years be like, you're going to be a coach one day. And I'd be like, I'm not coaching. Like, I remember them coming up to me like, hey, you're going to be a good coach one day. And like, I don't want to coach. Like, I just want to compete. I want to go to the Olympics. I want to try to win a gold medal for USA. That's what I wanted to do. And I was like, I don't want to coach at all. And so like, even up to my final competition in 2008, like coaching was not on my radar. Like I did not have any interest in that being a career path. So, you keep things in the back of your head and, you keep them as potential tools, but was it something I was thinking like, hey, my experience here is going to help an athlete later down the road? It wasn't even something I was really considering at the time.
I think it's so unique for Jordan and I to think about it. And then anybody else that's listening that knows you now as, Dave, the coach, the teacher, the team captain, everything. It's probably hard to, or not hard to hear you say that, but it just doesn't make sense because what we see from you is so different. And I know we're going to get to some probably other, moments in your career and your life that were, changes in that. But you have where you blow your knee out and it forces you to, let's say, redefine some of your style. So, you change your handstand technique. Were you, when you got stronger that year where you were rehabbing, were you like immediately a good ring competitor
No.
your sophomore year? No?
No. It kind of set the foundation for me to be able to build into a good ring guy. In fact, I wasn't even a good ring guy through my senior year of college. Like I became a good ring guy once I matured fully. I'd say that I kind of went through puberty late. Like I was still growing through my senior year of college. So I didn't really growing, a quarter of an inch was a big deal in terms of where I ended up at
5'4" to 5'5".
5'5", my massive 5'5" height. But my strength was also continuing to grow. So I actually became one of the stronger guys once I became part of Team USA after I graduated college.
Let's talk
Yeah, 'cause
about
I mean,
Team
there's
USA.
What's that?
Let's talk about Team USA. We haven't
Sure.
really delve into that very much yet. What was that like being like representing the country?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's one of the things I'm most proud of in my life.
What was your first international meet, Dave? Just out of curiosity.
My first international competition was the Jurassic Classic 2003 in Calgary, Canada. It was team competition. Now, let me just preface it by saying that in 2003, I had just finished up my 5th year at Stanford. I was still finishing. I finished my eligibility and still training at Stanford, prepping for the 04 games in Athens. And 03, I still hadn't made national team yet. And Winter Cup was our winter national championships. There's a summer and a winter. Winter Cup happens in February every year. It's actually coming up in a couple weeks. It was going to be my last competition. I was going to retire. And I said, if I don't make national team at this competition, I'm retiring. Like, I just don't have the funds, like living in Palo Alto without any funding. I wasn't on scholar. I didn't have the money to be able to continue to train. If I was on national team, I had nowhere to go. So I said, this is my chance to actually show that I belong with these guys or not. And I had the best competition of my life, Winter Cup 03. Up to that point, I hit all of my routines, and I finished very high in the all around. Finished second or third, which is a really big deal at the time. And they put me on national team. I got selected to be on national team, which was an enormous deal for me at the time. Enormous. It completely changed my perspective on who I could be as a gymnast. You go from a club to collegiate level. Can you be a capable, confident contributor at the collegiate level? A lot of C's there. And I was able to do that. But to make the jump from collegiate gymnastics to now being part of Team USA is enormous. It's like another stratosphere. And when I made that jump, and like there's a huge exhale and just being like, okay, I did this. But now it starts. Like, it was not like an end game. In fact, that year, 03, I made the biggest jump in my career in terms of difficulty and in terms of like who I was as a gymnast, like mentally. And a lot of the USA coaches and staff and organizers were really shocked at how big of a jump I made. And I went from just a guy that possibly could have been on team for a national team for 6 months to a year into a staple of national team, because in my mind, I said, I can't just be on national team. They have to rely on me. I have to contribute. And so I made an enormous leap in that year in 03. And to me, it was just a different mindset. Like, oh my God, like I have to get my shit in gear. I have to contribute. These guys are counting on me. And so for me, it was just a change in mindset. And right after I was on national team, they put me on national team, and a month later, I went to my first assignment in Jurassic Classic, and that turned into, I competed and went to camp 17 times for Team USA over the course of the next 6 years while I was on national team.
I really, Jordan, hold me accountable to this one. I don't want us to forget about what Dave's saying there with that, let's say, change of mind or change of perspective of like what's possible. Because if you guys are listening, we're also wanting to get in a little bit with Dave on just like business and Power Monkey and where we are now, because it's a long ways from where he was when he was a gymnast, and we're like slowly getting there through the phases.
Might have to have a part two.
Yeah, we might need that, Dave. But we had Jersey Dave, so we had Dave, up to age 18 before he went out to Palo Alto, and then now we've kind of gotten through there, and these are all very abbreviated versions that could be 2 hour, 3 hour, 3 day podcasts in their own.
Yeah, like I said, we'll have a book that goes into some of the stuff that I need to probably have a drink to tell the stories on.
I think so.
But yeah, we can
Wait.
probably
You guys aren't drinking right now? I thought that we were.
yeah.
Am I the only one? Oh, my bad.
Oh man, it's
Just you.
early hour.
It's
Dave's at.
still new. It's still before noon over here. So
Yeah, I think it's only appropriate for me, but but Dave,
Sure.
the like Jordan said, I think we do want to get into a little bit of your time with Team USA, and you already opened a huge door of questions for me to ask with this mindset thing, because I wanted to ask you earlier, and Jordan, don't worry, I'm not going too far backwards. When you were 18 and you're at Stanford, what did you realistically imagine your end game was as a gymnast?
I always wanted to go to the Olympics. Like
So, and I can relate to that as an athlete. There were things that I wanted to do that I didn't think I could do until I stepped into that sphere. So I'm just curious if you can think back on that, like whether it's when you're your freshman year rehabbing your knee, or maybe sophomore, junior year, like starting to get better, but you're not on getting selected for national team or anything while you're at Stanford. So what are you thinking your end game is?
You mean like what are my realistic goals are with that?
Yeah, like do you think you
Yeah.
know what, I can win something at NCAA's, or
Yeah. So this is how I viewed it at the time. My application for Stanford, you have to at the time you had to put a photo in and talk about that photo, why it meant something to you as part of the application process. And what I put in was a picture of the Olympic rings.
Mm.
So my main application letter to the university was about my lifelong goal to have those rings associated with my name. So the long-term goal, even from watching the 88 Olympics and the 84 Olympics, I was 4 years old, and, watching Team USA win the first and only gold medal we've ever won in the team. And that being etched. And then 88, one of my teammates from New Jersey, Dominic Minicucci, being on that team, going to Olympic trials in 88 as an 8-year-old and seeing, those guys up close and personal, being like, okay, this is what I want to do. Now, is that realistic when you're in high school or even when you're a freshman in college? No, at the time it was not even something that could be possibly considered. But along the way, in the same way that we teach a progression for a skill, is you set other goals for yourself. So freshman year, it was let's rehab and see if we can get back to compete and contribute a score for Stanford. Let me be the top guy on pommel horse. Let me contribute a score on all 6 events. Let me become an NCAA All-American. And along the way, you achieve these things that make that end goal a little bit more realistic. So I actually didn't become an All-American until my senior year. I became All-American my senior year, and it was because I normally had terrible NCAA championships, and I overthought things, and I didn't perform at the level that I should have. And the blame is on me that I didn't, execute my college career as well as I should have. But I finally was able to get that NCAA All-American, box checked my senior year. And then from there, it's like, you know what? Let's see if Team USA is in the cards. And I thought, if everything goes right, it could be a possibility. And then when that happens, all right, can you, win a Winter Cup and be the Winter National Champion, which I ended up doing twice? Can you become a Senior National Champion and be the top guy in the country, which I ended up doing, in 2007? And so the Olympics are there as the end goal. Whether or not it happens is irrelevant. And obviously the way that my Olympic journey happened, it dictated a lot of the next steps in terms of what happened with Power Monkey and where I went and the way that I think about things. But it wasn't it was the Olympics or nothing. It was the Olympics are there as kind of the top of Mount Everest, but you have to take one step at a time if that's even going to become a reality or something that you can think about as a reality. So for me, all those other things along the way started to make it seem like it's coming out of the mist, it's completely foggy, and then you achieve something and the fog starts to fade, and you know what? Hey, maybe you can compete with these guys. Maybe you're as good as these guys. And then shit, I'm better than these guys. Shit, they need to worry about me now. And that started to happen more and more as one of those things were kind of checked off.
I think Dave, we could like call this would be like the diary of an aspiring or future coach, because like you said, you didn't want to be a coach, and then we said early on, which is so common. Sometimes great athletes are just the worst coaches, or the last thing they can do is or explain things. But everything you're talking about, it just colors in a lot more of why you are who you are. So like many athletes have hard roads to get where they go, but yours seemed like
I'd say everybody
very,
does in
yeah,
different ways, yeah.
everybody in every facet of life, but the perspective that you take from these learning experiences are sort of what start to define who you're going to end up being. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the listeners, and we can go over it a little bit, know your story from the '08 Olympics. And I have a couple questions from that, but prior to that is you are seeing what's possible. And many times athletes only see the goal, and it's the coach's job to figure out everything in between and put value on that. And I think you were figuring that out along the way, and maybe some of it you became very conscious of, and that probably led to some confidence and some growth while you were still an athlete. And then maybe some of it, it's just now reflecting, and you're seeing some of these things. But when you were
wait,
sorry.
before you ask the next question, I just want to say one other thing about that is yes, the coach kind of helps facilitate those things that you don't know you need. But the other thing I think I did, like as I think about it more, is I never felt bad for myself. I never felt bad for myself. I never, I had a lot of fortunate things happen in terms of being able to compete for Stanford. But when an obstacle came in my way, I never looked at it as like, oh, I blew my knee out on my first day at Stanford, or oh, they didn't select me for this team, or whatever. I never felt bad. I always looked at it as like, what do we need to do? You know what I mean? Everything has an outcome. You have a path to take. You either take the path that is going to make things worse, or you look at for solutions. And I think I was always very solution based. I never felt like, woe is me, or like, the world is picking on me. Like everybody has shit that they have to go through. Everybody. And it's just, how do you get out of your shit quickly and turn a potentially terrible situation into something that actually turns into more of a positive? And I think I had a good ability to be able to say, don't feel bad about yourself. It's just another, obstacle that you overcome, just like you're learning a new skill. And so for me, I was able to kind of like, I think, beat those challenges more quickly because I had a mindset that said, I'm just going to try to find the quickest path around this obstacle, as opposed to thinking it's going to take away from my ability to achieve the end goal.
Where did that mentality, that mindset come from? Was that from your parents? Was that from your first gymnastics gym in Garwood, New Jersey? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I think it's always been with me. It's always been something that has been a part of my personality. Like I've always been someone that like appreciates things more than looks at. Like I always have, I think, a pretty good ability to see the brighter side of things and to say, no matter what's put in your way, there's a reason for it, and there's an outcome here that can turn it into a positive. And I think it's one of the reasons why, the way that I handled my Olympic experience turned it into a positive for myself. But I almost embrace challenges in that way. And this is something that I did really well when I was a club kid. I loved the challenge. I love the ability to say, like, somebody telling you can't do something and be like, fuck you, telling me, who are you to tell me that I can't do something? And to be able to say, okay, I'm going to show you that I can. And, or, kids beating me because they're more talented and being like, fuck you, I'm going to beat you because I care about this more than you do. And so I think just early on, I just wanted to succeed at this really badly. And I tried to find the path around those obstacles early on in my life. And it worked for me. So I just continued to have that same mindset. So no matter how big that stone is in front of me, there's a way through it. There's a way around it. There's a way under it. There is a way. It's not an end-all be-all obstacle. Things are going to move on. It's just that your way of approaching it really dictates as to whether or not that's going to be something that takes you in a negative direction or turns it into something that that actually turns into a positive for yourself.
Love that.
Yeah, I don't know if that was coherent or not,
No,
but
that was great. Can we
Definitely.
hear about that Olympic experience and that you just referenced a moment ago and what happened?
Dave, I have one question before you get there.
yeah,
Sorry,
Oh,
Jordan.
yeah.
go ahead.
Just because you said 2003, you go to Winter Cup, you get, top 3 placing there. That gets you on national team, right? Or is
Yep.
it no? Is that
That was
is
right.
that the one? Okay.
Yep.
And then so 2003, you're now Team USA. Like you're a member of Team USA. So that yeah, in my mind, that immediately is like this is 2003. Like we're getting ready to qualify for '04 Olympics. Like
Yeah.
that's my goal.
Actually,
That's your
before
goal.
even the World Championships was a big deal that year too, because it was in the U.S. for the first time in years. It was in Anaheim.
Mhm.
So '03 World Championships was it was a target for me. Like I thought I actually had a legitimate shot. And so I was training very hard for '03 World Championships even before setting sights on Athens. But yes.
So this happens, and not a spoiler alert to everybody, but Dave was not a part of the 2004 men's Olympic team. But my question for this is because you put in your Stanford letter the Olympic rings, and in '04 you did not make the men's team for the U.S. But I always am curious because I always wonder what I would have done in your position. Was there ever a temptation for you to say, you know what? I'm also Italian. Like I could maybe go live in Italy and compete for the Italian team. Like, was that ever something that popped up in your mind?
Yeah. So really quickly, '04, I was pretty close to making the Olympic team.
Hmm.
I had an Olympic trials in '04. My first Olympic trials in '04. I fucking crushed it. I hit 12 for 12. I had I became part of the Olympic squad, which were 10 guys that had to go to the Olympic selection camp in Colorado Springs. And so I was in the mix I was part of the Olympic squad that went to and had to compete again. And then they selected the Olympic team from that competition. There were some other things that happened leading up to Athens. And from the 10, 6 went to Athens plus 2 alternates. And me and one other guy got left out, and the 8 were taken to Athens. And I was left out with one other guy. I was devastated by that. I really thought that I had shown that I was capable of contributing to the team. But that was one of the most stacked Olympic teams Team USA had since '84, since when they had won Olympic gold. And that team ended up performing incredibly well, won a silver medal behind Japan, and kind of had a little renaissance that for the next 8 years, we were in really good shape. But after '04, I redoubled my efforts in the sense that like a lot of those guys were retiring, and I said the '05 to '08 quad is going to be mine. It's absolutely my quad to become the leader of Team USA. Like I had just come off of like a really stellar performance at '04, and competing for another country was not really in my thought. Now, Italy had approached me about potentially competing I went out to Rome, I went to the Olympic Training Center, and there was interest in having me compete for the Italian team. And at the time, the Italian team had put together a really strong team. They were really good at the time. They were guys that were medaling in individual events, performing well at European Championships. They were a strong team, but they were not nearly as strong as Team USA. So I had to make a decision. Do I want to risk not making an Olympic team with USA and potentially trying to win a team medal, or go and compete for Italy, knowing that a medal was not viable on the team, but making the team was a lot easier. And
And
I chose to, yeah.
no, I was just gonna say, Dave. I mean, yeah, I think the story writes itself. We know you chose Team USA,
Yeah.
but to me, it's
Yeah.
again, it comes back to this team thing, and like as a young kid, you're enjoying team, but then you have this goal. I want to be an Olympian. Then you have all these team experiences, and you have all of these moments. And then when given, I would still say, in my mind, given the opportunity to say, like, I can definitely be on the Olympic team, you chose, I can be a part of what could be one of the greatest teams, or I want that,
Yeah.
like, I want that opportunity, not I want to be, just for me. I want to be that team, that aspect, and that's such a cool thing for me. And I think that leads into what is probably
That.
right there, yeah, the Team USA. And I mean,
That
that's
really mattered to me.
yeah, and I think that explains even more to me, if you give us the rundown of, what happened in Beijing, that explains that much more for how you carried yourself there and how you acted there, is just explaining some of those things. And I think
Hmm.
Jordan and I have heard a lot of this, but not all of the depth to it. So even that, I never had gotten the opportunity to really
Sure.
ask you. I remember
Yeah.
asking, like, did you get a chance where you could have competed for Italy? And you said, yeah, but I didn't. And just
Yeah.
this explains it more for me.
I still to this day and will always, Jordan, you're right over there. Lost some
Yeah, I don't know
light.
what just happened. The light just went.
Looks dramatic.
Yeah. Keep
Perfect
talking.
timing.
I love being part of a team. I absolutely, I don't know if words do it justice, talking about how much I prefer sharing in a collective success over anything that you do personally. Like a
Hmm.
personal success or a personal achievement to me has infinitely less value than a shared success. I love the idea, like, not only can collectively everyone benefit from a collective goal and a shared success, but also the ability to always have that group to reminisce and constantly be a part of as your journey continues forward. Like I said, like this, I have this Team USA banner behind me. These are the nine guys that were part of the Olympic team in Beijing, alternates and the full squad. And we're still very close. Like I saw two of them yesterday when I was in Michigan, and we chat pretty often, and they're brothers to me. And Power Monkey now, being able to do things with you guys and the rest of the team and the people that come to camp, that to me matters so much more than any individual accolade I could ever achieve. Like winning national championship in '07. So cool. Monkey off my back, something I should have done probably a couple more times. It means so much less than anything that I achieved as part of a team. So I always look for opportunities to be able to contribute to a team success. So as we were leading into the Beijing situation, I don't know how in depth you want to get with this. I feel like I've told this story before, but
I
my
think
Olympic experience,
anybody that wants it super deep, they need to come to camp and listen to the campfire story. But I definitely want
yeah,
I want the Cliff Notes version for sure, because it leads into
yeah,
the next
my
part of what we want to talk about.
okay, my Olympic experience was unique. I think most people would say that it was unique in terms of selection process, in terms of how it all happened. Um, But leading up to an Olympic year, there is a qualifier event, then there's a national championship, then there's Olympic trials, and then for Olympic trials, there's an Olympic selection camp, and then normally we'll have the team selected that goes to the event. But really, there's two events that um, are how you qualify. It's 50% of your score is taken from Olympic or from national championship, and there's two competitions. It's 2 days of competition, and then there's 2 days of competition for Olympic trials. So it's basically four competitions that get added together. Your scores are combined, rankings, but then there's a selection committee. So after my competitive career, I became part of the selection committee for a number of World Championships and Olympic Games. So I saw the other side of this. Um, but the selection committee are the ones who actually name the team that go out on the floor. And so I didn't have a great national championship. I was trying to peak for trials, which is also another part of the conversation because trials, making the team is sometimes harder than competing at the Olympic Games, especially when you have a deep country. So when you end up seeing is that people are trying to peak for trials and then they fuck up at the games because they're exhausted by the time the Olympics roll around. But in any case, I was trying to peak for trials, and when it all came through, I had not a great first day of trials and an amazing second day of trials. I ended up falling on pommel horse my first day, which is a really important event for me, and it was probably the reason why I was not selected to be on the competitive squad. I was named to one of the alternates. And so leaving Philly, not being named to the competitive squad was heartbreaking, like devastating. But I knew that there was some potential because we would go to the Olympic camp and 2 people on the team were hurt. They were named to the team because they were incredible competitors, but they were hurt. They were trying to give them some time to recover. And it was the 2 Ham brothers, Paul Ham, Olympic champion in 04. He broke his hand at a national championship, so they were trying to let his hand heal. But they gave him a spot on team. And then Morgan Ham, his twin brother, had hurt his ankle. And so we knew that a couple guys were hurt. So the alternates, and there were 3 of us, had a pretty viable chance to be named to the squad. We go to Colorado Springs for the Olympic qualifier event, or the Olympic team camp event, and they made us compete 2 more times. So uniforms, judges, crowd, and they wanted to see us perform again. And it was mostly for see if Paul and Morgan were ready, but also for me and the other 2 alternates, Sasha Artemev and Raj Bavzar, to see how we stacked up in that situation. Raj, I don't think competed, like just said, I'm not going to do it. And just like look at my 4 scores previous. Sasha did a couple events and I did everything. And I did very well. I hit all my events, but it was kind of like some strategy being played, like some athletes saying like, I'm just going to leave it alone and say like, I'm not going to do everything, maybe a couple events here. And I was trying to show readiness on everything. After that, Morgan said he was out, or Paul said he was out, and it came down to me, Sasha, and Raj, and I thought I had a really viable chance to be named to the team at that point, and they picked Raj to go in. And that was the most I have ever cried in my life that night. That night, I went in my room, and I like had nothing left to give. Like, I had just competed twice, and I hit 12 for 12, and I really thought like I had done everything I could. And I think at that point, you should have the mentality of, I'm the guy that goes in, otherwise you shouldn't be in that position at all. And I just bawled. I called my best friend and I called my brother and I just let him know what happened. And I just needed somebody to talk to. And they were kind of the shoulder that I leaned on. And still had to get ready to go to Beijing. So at the time, we're still waiting to see whether or not Morgan was going to be able to compete. We traveled to Beijing 2 weeks later. And we get there a few weeks early to get acclimated. And during that time, we're training. And we don't know if Morgan's going to compete. But they make me and Sasha, now the other 2 alternates, show readiness at the Beijing Olympic Training Center. So we have to do another full competition with judges, with uniforms, a couple of days before opening ceremony. And again, I hit 6 for 6. I did very well. And I don't want to minimize the poor performances that put me in this situation. Because if like other gymnasts are looking at this, I didn't do great at national championships and like I said, first day of trials, and I put myself in the situation. But then moving forward, I was doing well. I don't want to create a rosy picture around what I did to put myself in the situation. But in China, I hit 6 for 6, and Sasha didn't have a very good day. Like I think he hit 1 or 2 events, so he didn't have a great day. But Sasha was amazing on pommel horse, the event that we really needed help. Like he was coming off of a world bronze medal the year before, one of the best we've ever seen. And so that was where he was going to really contribute quite a bit if the team needed, if Morgan had to pull out. The day before Olympic opening ceremony, Paul pulls out of the Olympics. The day before. The opening ceremony is the next day. So it comes down to me and Sasha for the last spot. And they make us go into the gym one more time and compete in front of judges one more time to show readiness. So on that day, we had to show 2 routines. We had to show floor routine because Morgan was amazing at floor. And we needed to show potentially a 3rd score on floor for the team. And we need to show a pommel horse routine. I hit probably 2 of the best routines of my life. I hit an amazing pommel horse routine. And pommel horse was where I could really contribute. I was probably top 3 in the country on pommel horse at the time, but Sasha was our best pommel horse guy. And if he hit that routine, it was going to show that, he would probably beat me head to head because he had struggled with consistency on pommel horse as well. And he hit his pommel horse routine. And that night we were in the Olympic Village and sat the whole team down, and they told us that Sasha was going to be put in ahead of me. And that absolutely, again, crushed me. I went outside and I called my brother and I told him. And then in that moment, again, this is like a huge fork in the road and a situation that I think defined a path for me. I'd seen how other alternates had dealt with not being selected in the past, and it really was detrimental to the success of the team, making it more about them not being selected rather than the team succeeding at the highest level. And I told myself, while I think this is the wrong decision, the decision is what it is. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that this team does well. I'm going to carry water bottles. I'm going to carry bags. Whatever you need me to do, I'm going to be there for you guys to make sure that this team performs well. And leading up to it, the rest of the country did not think that we had a shot to do anything. No other person on our team had ever competed on the Olympics before. We were all new to the team. We had come off of really poor performances at World Championships the previous couple of years. The previous year, we took fourth. We were very close to a medal. We were in Stuttgart. But the rest of the world didn't even think that we were going to finish in the top 12 and to make it to the team finals. And so I was just like, this is my chance to show that the team matters more than me as an individual. And I became the ultimate Team USA men's gymnastics cheerleader. I was fucking screaming my lungs out from the stands and supporting in any way I possibly could. The team, I definitely mentioned this before, and I highly recommend. I don't know if you guys have watched it. The team put on a performance for the ages. Like, to me, I still think it's one of the greatest team performances ever for Team USA in team finals. The guys just absolutely crushed the competition. There were a couple of mistakes, but overall they put together. John Horton on that day, who was kind of the top guy on the team that competition, did the most amazing routines I had ever seen. He stuck every landing on every routine. Justin Springs sticking his triple back off high bar leading into our last couple events, and then finishing the competition. I mean, storybook ending here. Sasha finished the competition on the 6th event. Pommel horse was our last event, and he needed to hit that pommel horse routine that put him on the team for us to potentially medal. And he hit one of the most beautiful pommel horse routines you will ever see in your life. It's been viewed many, many times on YouTube, and I highly recommend, if you're not going to watch the whole competition, at least watch Sasha's pommel horse routine. And he hit that routine, and the team got a bronze medal. And I still get chills thinking about it. I was up in the stands bawling my fucking eyes out because I felt like I was there contributing, and being a part of that team and what they did on the floor still makes me smile today because it was such an incredible performance. And the coolest part to me was, there's a connection to me being out there with the guys. This is a funny little story, but Sasha at the time was kind of a kid. He was in his early 20s and was kind of like the kid of the team. I was the old man. I was the 28, 29, whatever I was at the time, was kind of, they call me the grandpa of the team. And Sasha forgot his uniform in the US. He did not bring his Olympic uniform to the Olympics, which was a very Sasha thing to do at the time. And so Sasha had to wear my uniform at the Olympics at team finals. So the routine that Sasha performed on pommel horse to win that bronze medal was my uniform. And so even though I was not out there, I was a part of that team in many, many ways. And one of them was that actually Sasha was wearing my uniform, which I forced him to give back to me after the competition. I was like, I want that fucking thing back so I can hang it on my wall. But yeah, it was an amazing experience, and a lot of obviously ups and downs. I can go into some more detail, but obviously there's a lot of nuance in terms of how it all panned out. But that led to me to take that mentality into some other phases of my life after the Olympics were over.
Dave, I don't know if you could have more perfectly put a teaser for us to promote our Power Monkey Origins podcast that we're going to have coming up pretty soon, because when you finish a story like that, I don't want to go into any other chapters. I just want everybody to be able to close the book and and stew on that a little bit. But like you said, that we've all heard that story a few times and to different depths, and we're able to be there with you and feel the energy when you tell that story. But knowing now 10 plus years with Power Monkey, that story absolutely defines why there's a team Power Monkey right now. like we have Power Monkey Camp, we have Power Monkey Fitness, you know, our events and our businesses, but like we're a team, and it's very much extended through everybody that we associate with. Like we bring everybody into the team, and that's a testament to, you know, a lot of the experiences and lessons and moments that you had through your development. At the time it was all athletic, but I think it's just springboarded into what is, I think, still the beginning of your development and your ultimate success on the, you know, business side of life. And that's definitely what we want to get into when we go into the origin stories and dig a little deeper into this new chapter of your life. That's not Jersey Dave, it's not Stanford Dave, it's not Olympic rings Dave, it's Power Monkey Dave.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to go into that one. It's nice to reminisce about those stories and about that journey, and how important and how it kind of shaped the next phase. Because I think I have the ability to kind of put the team forward in everything that we do, but definitely shaped in terms of direction, in terms of what Power Monkey is and where I think Power Monkey can go, and how team and family are at the center of all of that. And it just means the world to me to know that we can kind of lean into each other and lean on each other for collective success, because to me that's the ultimate goal. I have no interest in individual success when it comes to any of this stuff, and it's kind of how I pursued an individual sport.
And yeah, I think everybody, you're all listening now, so I think a ton of you have probably been to camp or, you know, weekends with us or events with us, and you definitely know that, you know, you're a part of the team, you're a part of our family. And if you're, you know, you're new and you're listening to Dave and you're hearing this, you definitely have to come spend some time with us just so you can actually feel what this is, because it's one of the reasons why, you know, Jordan and I feel so lucky to be a part of the team that we're a part of. And yeah, I'm excited to go into the next episode of this, but we're going to call it here for the day, Dave. I think.
Yeah, real quick, I have one last small question, which I think is a nice little cherry on top. But what happened when you got home and your town that you grew up in, Garwood, New Jersey, and the county that you lived in, like, did they celebrate you in any way? There's a little story here that I love you telling.
Yeah. So obviously, I was upset with my own personal, you know, non-contributing to the team and event-wide, but the rallying that I had from my small town and from my county, Union County, New Jersey, and all of my friends and all my family and all the people I grew up with was absolutely amazing. And so the town named a day after me, which was really cool. It was actually March 23rd, Dave Durante Day in Garwood. And then the even better one was Union County named a day after me, and it's my brother's birthday. Which I thought was always really funny, because, you know, my brother and sister always are like, oh, David is the favorite child. He's the one that everybody loves. And, you know, parents go out and travel around the world with him with every competition. And so it's just a nice little extra, you know, jab to the stomach that the county decided to name Dave Durante Day in our county as my brother's birthday.
Oh man.
And then I got, you know, some accolades
worthwhile.
within the state. Yeah, it was, it's a funny story now, but yeah, the rallying that I had from the community was just so overwhelming. And the guys from Surgeons who've continued to show support. There's still a banner with my face and name on it at the gym when you go down South Ave and Garwood into Westfield, and I still see my beautiful mug when I'm on that road there. Every time I go by, it's just an honor to still be a part of it.
That's so cool, Dave. Dave, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
We generally thank our guests for coming on.
Of course, guys. Thank you for the questions.
I think we'll spare you too many of the questions, but before you give your traditional outro, because I don't feel capable of doing that.
Gymnastics, weightlifting, gymnastics.
Yeah, no, we all know that. No, I'm curious. I mean, sometimes we leave hints to it, but while you're all waiting for the next episode, Dave, what is a book that everybody should be reading now? What are you reading? What are you into?
Let's see. What am I reading right now? I have a few books that I'm looking into. Again, you guys know that Outlive is one. You know what I went back to recently? This is one that I've read a few times and has been really helpful. which is the business side. This one over here, I actually had it sent to Jordan during the holidays too.
That's right there.
Principles by Ray Dalio. Principles, Ray
I have
Dalio,
that
one
as
of
well.
the, yeah, I got one for you, Mike, as well, years ago.
Maybe that's why I have it.
Yeah. He's incredibly successful person in the private equity world and billionaire who shared his life and work wisdoms through his principal book, and it's incredible in terms of the application that it has to, you know, leading a team and how you can get the most out of working together. And it's just a very, very well written and functional book. So I'd recommend you guys checking that one out. It's an older one, maybe like 5-6 years old. It's nothing super new, but it has great wisdom in there.
Very good. All right, I wrote Principles, Ray Dalio, if you're looking for an inspirational entrepreneurial business book to pick up. So thank you for that one, Dave.
Guys, thank you again. It's always nice to go down memory lane here and talk about some of the ins and outs of from when I was 6 all the way up to now. But like I said, these are just kind of scratch the surface about some of the stories. Come to camp, everybody, and you can kind of hear some of the more in-depth what happened along the way, some funny stories and some things that maybe one day I'll write down. Maybe one day. But in any case, thank you guys again. We'll do part 2 sometime soon and talk about the Power Monkey part of the story. For all listeners out there, please be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. You can check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, at Mike Service, and at Jordan Samuel Photo. On behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your hosts, Dave Durante, Mike Service, and Jordan Samuel. And until next time, thank you all for listening.